how much control can you start to build in your mind so that when a thought comes, you can watch it float by. And then throughout your day, when a challenging moment comes, instead of attaching and getting furious towards somebody, you get curious because you've got that little bit of space. And it does take time, it does take practice. It's like jumping on a bike for the first time, expecting to race down a hill. It's not going to happen. Like, start slow. Like you said, it might just be 1 minute where you put your phone down and you walk outside and you just look at the colors outside, connect with your senses. What can I see? What can I hear? What can I feel? Like, so many of us are constantly distracted and not actually giving ourselves any time to connect with nature, to connect with others. And one last thing I'll finish with that I think is a really beautiful way to understand why it's important to spend time, whether it's meditating, whatever you want to call it, being mindful, being present, is this.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jodi Richardson, and this is Well, Hello Anxiety. In a world that often moves too fast, we're here to pause, breathe, and understand anxiety together. Each episode will explore practical strategies, share honest conversations, and uncover the science behind anxiety and well-being, all while creating a space where it's okay to not be okay. Let's continue this journey together. The Good Human Factory. I wonder what that makes you think about when you hear the name of today's guest's incredible organisation that is supporting people in schools and workplaces with their mental health all around the country. Cooper Chapman is actually a former professional surfer and is now a mental health advocate, a keynote speaker, and founder of the Good Human Factory, which is a social enterprise which inspires people to make mental health cool. So you can understand why I'm chatting to Cooper today. And of course, he also supports people not only through the work that he does, but also through his podcast and a brand new book, which we'll talk about in a little bit of time. So Cooper, a very warm welcome to you. Where are you joining us on the podcast from today?
Oh, it's so good to be here, Dr. Jodi. I really appreciate the time and the beautiful intro you just gave me. But right now, I'm joining you from the Gold Coast today, actually. So
I'm
just got
jealous.
home from 10 days in Bali, which was really nice, a holiday. And now I've got a quick week at home and I actually fly to Brazil tomorrow. So very busy at the
Oh,
moment. So it's great to catch up for a quick chat.
were you in Bali for a surf?
Yep, it was my partner's 40th birthday and it was my brother-in-law's 40th, like a week after each other. And both of them, we kind of celebrated. My partner's in Ubud and had a nice sort of spiritual switch off few days. And then my brother-in-law, Fisher, the big DJ. So we had like 150 friends from all around the world come together for 3 days of surfing and good times, which was, yeah, really nice.
Oh, what a brilliant, oh my gosh. Isn't it nice when other people give you a really good reason to travel to a really great destination?
Oh, it's so much fun. I'm, yeah, very lucky. My sister and Fisher had their wedding in Bali, which was amazing. Like hundreds of people coming together, and this was like the 5 year reunion, so everyone came together for his 40th. So it was good fun. It was nice to get in the water and surf a little bit as well, and yeah, get a little bit of skin color before summer comes around.
Yeah. Oh, good one. And off to Brazil. Tell us a little bit about what Brazil holds for you.
So I'm actually going to Brazil to go to the United Nations Climate Change Conference, which is on right now actually, but it's a 2 week conference, and I am speaking, doing a keynote for taking care of the ocean and representing Australian youth. So that's another exciting project that I have, a partnership with Surfers for Climate and a program called Blue Minds, where we educate students on how to lower eco anxiety. A lot of research is showing that so many young people in Australia are struggling with concerns about the future of the planet, which obviously all of us have that concern. So I've had a program with a friend of mine, Cal Glansnig, where we've spoken to over 12,000 students in person over the last year, where I talk about how to be grateful for the environment, how to be more mindful, how to be more present of what's going on around us, but then that hope lies in action. Instead of having that fear, having that sort of, encouragement and inspiration for young people to take those daily actions to take care of the planet. So fast forward, we applied to speak at the United Nations. Cal, my business partner, has spoken before, talking about protecting the oceans. He's actually a local councillor for Cronulla Shire Council.
Yeah.
But anyway, we applied to speak and do a keynote at the Brazil conference because next year, potentially, Australia is going to hold the climate change conference in Adelaide. So we're kind of pitching to build this education for young people around what the conference is. So we're, yeah, speaking at the conference in Brazil at the United Nations, which is very exciting. But sorry about my weird side wind.
No, it's not a sidestep at all. I think a lot of people, our hearts beat a little faster and our tummies can turn over, because anxiety affects so many people in many different ways. And you just have to turn on the news, which I try not to do, to sort of like feel really worried and frightened and fearful. So I love the work that you're doing, Cooper. And I'm curious to know tell us about kind of like professional surfing. Was kind of one part of your career, and what was kind of the impetus for you to move into working in mental health? It's normally a very personal reason, isn't it?
When I was 6 years old, I lost an uncle to suicide. It was, pretty tough for myself and my family to deal with. Obviously, I was quite young. I didn't know what it was at the time. But once I got to my early teen years, my dad let me know that, his brother had taken his life and kind of what happened. So I became very aware that mental health or mental illness or suicide was a thing at quite a young age. I then, throughout my teen years, watched my dad struggle at times a little bit with his mental health, bit of depression, anxiety, would want to go and see psychologists. And my mum grew up in the era, like so many women, of you're the man, get over it, be strong. So I kind of had this, and it was never directed, or it's more subconscious and reflective, me realizing this. But I think because of that, I developed a bit of a fear of mental illness, but also a fear of asking for help because I'm going to get told to get over it, like my dad does. You're the man. So because of that, I was always really curious and forward thinking and quite strategic thinking when it came to my sport, and would use my mind a lot to sort of get ahead of competition, but also realize there's some really cool things that we could do with our mind when it comes to meditation. And, I definitely didn't lean too hard into that stuff, but I was aware of it from a young age. So that was kind of my junior mental health journey, but very much through that period of my life, I based a lot of my self-worth, a lot of my identity really came from external validation, what I thought other people thought of me, what my sponsors thought of me, what my school friends, and I wanted to be, this pro surfer and get this attention. I grew up with, three sisters in a household with four kids. Like I felt like I got my love and admiration because I was the sporty one that was doing really well. And then when I wasn't doing well in sort of my early 20s, and, I went from the junior tour to the international tour, my mental health declined, and I didn't really understand at the time what was going on. And I was very lucky to have access to great sports psychologists through Surfing Australia, a guy named Jason Patchell, and he really started to unpack with me like pro surfing's what you do, but it's not who you are. And that really led me down this path throughout my 20s, I guess, of self-discovery and self-development, reading a lot of books and yeah, trying to understand myself a bit better. And then when I lost major sponsorship and had, a declining career, I could manage it a little bit better. I felt like I had some skills in sort of self-worth and self-identity around values, around gratitude and kindness to myself and being present and mindful and, mind meditation and all of these different things that had really helped me. After my little sister lost a friend to suicide in her last year of high school about 7 years ago, I was like, far out. Like, I'm so lucky and privileged that I've learned all these really valuable lessons that have helped me through times that would have been harder if I didn't have them. I didn't get taught them at school. Maybe I can go and talk to a few high school kids that don't have the privilege and the opportunity that I've had, and maybe one or two of them can learn something and it might help them. And yeah, it's been a crazy journey since that sort of moment. I went and spoke to an old school teacher friend of mine, said, this is my idea. Like, would I be able to maybe come and share a half an hour workshop with the kids around values and philosophy and gratitude and these little things that really helped me? And he was like, oh, you're such a good human for wanting to come and do that. You should call it the Good Human Factory. The kids come to your workshop, they learn a little bit and they leave a bit better of a human. So that's where the name came from. But yeah, that's a bit of a flow of sort of my journey with mental health, how it led me into doing the work I do. And yeah, now I've retired from surfing. I've spoken to over 50,000 students in person. I've worked with, Red Bull, Amazon, Westpac, Coles, hundreds of different organizations now to help their teams sort of just develop that really small change of mindset around mental health, to realize like, sure, we have mental illness where we have so many great charities helping people with mental illness crisis support, but everybody has mental health. And there's so many things that we can do that are scientifically proven. I'm sure you share with your audience all the time. So many of these different, really small habits that don't cost anything. They just take a little bit of effort. And that's, yeah, what I've really tried to base my work and my life on, this concept of giving 1% of your day, just starting small and doing action for your mental health, not just awareness.
That leads me beautifully into my next question, which is to ask about the 1% Good Club. And I think I know where we're going with this, and also maybe a couple of examples of the things that you're supporting the community to do, the community that join you on the journey in the club.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll explain it for everyone who's a little bit confused confused by probably a year or two into doing my work where I'd been delivering these workshops, speaking to students, speaking to corporates about all these different habits like mindfulness and meditation and gratitude. I was definitely practicing them regularly, 3 to 4 times a week, but I wasn't doing it every single day. And I knew the benefits, and I had that sort of guilty feeling of like, I know I need to do this stuff more. And I was sitting down one day doing a meditation, which is another great reason why you should meditate. This is where this idea that has now stemmed into, you'll hear in a second, the impact it's had. I was doing a meditation and I couldn't slow my mind down. And I was just thinking, like, surely we can all give 1% of our day to our mental health. We've all been affected by mental illness, whether it's an uncle, a friend, a brother, a cousin, a friend of a friend. We've all been affected by suicide. We know how important taking care of our mental health is, and we have all this awareness, but not many of us are actually doing anything.
Yeah.
And I was a mental health guy, and I knew I wasn't doing it daily. So I was like, surely we can all give 1% of our day to our mental health. And I stopped my meditation about 5 minutes into a 10-minute meditation because I just could not slow off this thought of like, what is 1% of 24 hours? So I got my calculator out. There's 1,440 minutes a day. 14.4 minutes is 1% of a day. 14.4 in minutes is 14 minutes and 24 seconds. So I was like, well, surely we can give 14 minutes, less than 1% of our day to our mental health as just a baseline foundation. Okay, I need to do something. And then I was like, okay, what are great things to do for your mental health that we could do for 14 minutes? And I know that meditation is one of the most researched things and one of the most proven ways to build a better relationship with our thoughts, which obviously is at the core of bad mental health, is the view we have of ourselves, the thoughts that constantly run through our head. And so I was like, well, 10 minutes of mindfulness or meditation each morning to settle our mind so we can respond rather than react during our day. We have that little bit of settle, let the dirt settle that's in our mind before the day goes on and we can be a bit clearer. So 10 minutes meditation. And then I was like, gratitude is just such an incredible practice that we need to practice it to get better at it. We need to do something. We all know what gratitude is, and it's this woo-woo thing, but if you have a daily practice, you'll start to see way more good things in your day because you're practicing seeing good things. So I was like, there's 14 minutes, 10-minute meditation, 4 minutes gratitude at night. Amazing. And I was like, well, we're far more likely to maintain a habit when we have a community around us. So I was like, I'm going to start a community and call it the 1% Good Club. 1% doing something good for your mental health. And my brand is the Good Human Factory with a smiley under the logo good. So I was keeping everything sort of in-house. And I was like on Instagram, well, I'm going to start an Instagram group chat. If you want to join, I'll send every morning a 10-minute meditation every night. 4 minutes, you stop and reflect, write 3 things you're grateful for. Everyone in the community can like it and get around you. And you've got this community to sort of stay accountable. It started 1,599 days ago now in like June 2021.
Approximately.
And yeah, and it grew pretty slowly at times, fastly at times. There's been, I think, over 3,000 people have joined over the past 4 years. There's been over 1 million gratitude sent in over the past 4 years, and you can just like, I'm sure you know as a doctor, the neuroscience of if people stop and reflect what they're grateful for, it makes them feel good. There's been 1 million moments of that from that little idea I had as a, meditation one day. And it's grown to just this beautiful community of thousands of people who each day show up, write what they're grateful for, support each other, do their meditation in the morning, and they've given 1% of their day to their mental health. And the testimonials I've had and the impact I've gathered from, anecdotal evidence from everybody in the community over the past few years is just profound. Like, it's so beautiful to see the impact it's had on so many. And then fast forward to 15, 16 months ago now, I was approached by Wiley Publishing and they said, hey, we've been following your work with your keynote speaking, your school stuff, the Good Human Factory, your 1% community. Do you have any idea for a book? We're looking to grow into self-development. And I was like, yeah, I kind of do. Like, part one, I want to write about my surfing career and the lessons I learned during that and the mindset shifts I had from, being a pro athlete to not basing my self-worth on my career, but on, the sort of person I am. Then into sort of building a social movement that's impacted, thousands and thousands of people. And then all the lessons I've learned from my experts on my podcast, over 200 people. There's so many really good, healthy habits that regulate our nervous system that we all need, but a framework around it that can maybe make it sound achievable, like the 1% Good Club framework, was what the publisher was like, yep, we love it. And yeah, I had 7 months or 6 months to write a 50 or 60,000 word manuscript and got it in. It came out on the 1st of October, and yeah, it's been really cool. In the first 5 weeks, I think I've just been told we're over like 1,500 copies sold, and I've had strangers stop me in the street and hundreds of messages now from
Oh,
people just saying they've read it and it's really helped them and they've passed it on to their partner. It's cool to like give people a bit of a softer gateway to self-development and mental health, and kind of like my initial and my sort of theory is trying to make mental health cool. But
yeah.
anyway, sorry, I feel like all I've done is
No,
spoken
well,
this
that's
whole
why you're here.
podcast.
That's why you're here, Cooper. And I think too, you know, especially with recently interviewed Gus Warland, and gosh, Gus has Got You for Life,
Yeah, oh my
and
God.
the mental fitness app, we were talking about the suicide stats here in the country, and it's one attempt every 8 minutes here in Australia, which is just shocking. And of those that attempt to take their life each day, 7 men and 2 women succeed, which is just absolutely devastating when you think about it. If you're able to sort of get a window into supporting more men as well as the other people that you support in the work that you're doing, then that's such a win. Because, like you were saying, when you grew up, that the men around you, or particularly your dad, it's kind of like rub some dirt on it, you know, toughen up, kind of get on with it, just kind of stiff up a lip kind of stuff. And we know that it's normal to grieve, it's normal to have pain, it's normal to be have all sorts of human emotions. It's not normal to be happy all the time. And so when you can make it accessible the way that you have, I think, and that accountability, because there's probably you're probably hard pressed to find an adult that hasn't heard of mindfulness or meditation, and probably understands that that's probably a good thing for me. But it's one thing to know it; it's doing it. It's taking action. And I'm curious about meditation, because I know that that's something that a lot of people. I've personally, when I was healing through depression, I think it was a psychotherapist, taught me to meditate, and I meditated twice a day for 20 minutes, and that was what turned the ship. It was what turned the ship. It was so incredible. And yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of meditation. It doesn't have to
For
be
sure.
that much. Like you're saying, 10 minutes, even if people start at 2 minutes. But what I want you to say to the listener who's thinking, look, yes, I'm one of those people. I know about meditation. I know it would be good for me. But every time I sit down, I struggle because my head is full of thoughts, and a lot of people have a misconception about what meditation is. I wonder if you could sort of clear the air for the listener who's like, I don't think I'm doing it right.
I'm going to give you a few things that hopefully click for people. So, first and foremost, like there's no good and bad meditators. There's just someone who meditates and somebody who doesn't. And that feeling of, all these thoughts, that's kind of the point of meditation, to realize, wow, there is so much in here. Think of it like, think you have a water bottle or a glass water bottle, and it's got dirt in it. And when you first sit down, it's shaken up, and there's all this dirt floating around. What's the best way to get that dirt to settle? Is just to leave it alone. You can't shake it to settle. You just got to try and leave it for a bit, and it might take 5, 10, might take you, a few weeks of doing it for 5, 10 minutes a day. But then you start to realize, hey, that dust and that dirt starts to settle, and the water clears up again. That's just a great little metaphor and analogy that I like to share from it, because it kind of makes it quite visual of like the goal isn't to sit there and be like, oh my God, I'm a good meditator. And there's so many different ways to find, I guess, your way into it. Whether you start with guided meditation, such a great way to let your mind follow somebody's talking, and you'll still drift off and then come back to their voice. And then as you do it a little bit more, you start to realize another good analogy that a friend of mine uses, who's my meditation coach, Chris Soul from Mindspo. He says, like, imagine you've got a big barrel or a bucket with water in it, and your goal is to get the water to go still at the top. Every time you have a thought, it's like your hand wanting to touch the water and it ripples the water again. It's like, no, you want it to stop. So, how much can you stop your hand or your thoughts from going down that thought and touching the water again and rippling it? It's like, how much control can you start to build in your mind so that when a thought comes, you can watch it float by? And then throughout your day, when a challenging moment comes, instead of attaching and getting furious towards somebody, you get curious because you've got that little bit of space. And it does take time, it does take practice. It's like jumping on a bike for the first time, expecting to race down a hill. It's not going to happen. Like, start slow. Like you said, it might just be 1 minute where you put your phone down and you walk outside and you just look at the colors outside, connect with your senses. What can I see? What can I hear? What can I feel? Like, so many of us are constantly distracted and not actually giving ourselves any time to connect with nature, to connect with others. And one last thing I'll finish with that I think is a really beautiful way to understand why it's important to spend time, whether it's meditating, whatever you want to call it, being mindful, being present. Is this there's this song that has Alan Watts sort of singing it, saying a spiritual, philosophical verse over it, and he says, when somebody is speaking to us, we need to stop speaking if we want to listen, right?
Mm.
When the world is speaking to us around us, we need to stop thinking if we want to listen to what's going on, to the sounds outside, to the colors outside, to the expression, the emotion somebody else is giving to us. If we're constantly thinking, we're not absorbing any of that. So meditation is a great way to teach you to settle your thinking. So then you can actually, be aware with our senses, how we're feeling, if we're getting sick, if, we're not feeling well, if we need to reach out for help. So many of us are numbing everything, whether it's drugs and alcohol, whether it's food, whether it's porn, whether it's scrolling your phone. Like, we're all looking to escape, and I'm a sucker for this too. Like, this is why I try and do my 10 minutes, which like, I'm not anywhere near like good at this stuff. I'm just like exposed to, how it can help, and so many people it has helped.
And
Hopefully that gives a bit of a
yeah, and
meditation
like you
feel.
say, it's not about being good. And when you talk about control, what we're talking about with meditation is it's control on your attention. It's where is your attention? Are you getting swept away with the thought that is just kind of like, hooking you and taking you away from everything else that's available to you in the moment? Like you said, the beautiful colours, like just looking outside, looking up, even just looking up is actually good for our nervous system, for reasons I won't go into. But the idea that if you do find yourself thinking about something that's so normal, that's actually normal. It's just, can you notice that you're thinking about it? Can you let go of it and bring your attention back to whatever it is that your focus is on, whether that's your breath, whether that's the music you're listening to, whether or not that's a mindfulness practice. And I'm curious, with the mindfulness that you send to the people in the 1% Good Club, what's the form of that? Is that a recorded mindfulness practice, or is it a instructions? I'd love to know a little bit more about any listeners who want to jump on board, what they might expect.
Yeah, first and foremost, if anyone wants to join, just send at the Good Human Factory on Instagram a direct message saying, I want to join the club. You'll get sent a link and you get automatically added into it. But I'm going to be honest, I've been for 1,500 days now just sending a YouTube link. I did about 1,400 days straight. I now have a girl who works for me that does that in the morning because it was getting.
I'm so glad to hear that for you, Cooper, because that's a lot.
I still do the gratitudes at night every single night, which is really cool. We're at 1,600 days streak basically as of today or tomorrow, which is really cool to have that sort of consistency. If anyone follows me at Cooper Chapman on Instagram, you'll see every night I post a story on my Instagram, and I have a little yellow tile and it says 3 things I'm grateful for, and I write my 3. Then I send it to the group, and then they just have to write in the group chat, so they don't have to post if they don't want.
Yeah.
But every day it's literally just a YouTube 10-minute link, and Lauren, the girl who works for me, finds a new one every day. I used to just scroll and find a new one. So it's probably something that I feel guilty that I could be a bit more structured, and I've been saying pretty much for the past 2 years now that I'm going to create 7 meditations. So there's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and a Friday one, and make them all 14 minutes. So you've got a 1% meditation for your day. And that way I can sort of promote my own meditations just over again and get the downloads. But I have had it on my long list of things that need to be done, and I haven't got around to doing my 7 meditations. So watch this space. Hopefully I'll have 7 of my own meditations coming very soon. But right now it's just you get a link. So it's like, oh, I found one that I like. I'll save that on my notes and I'll go back to that one that I like. That way there's an exposure to all different new ones all the time. And if you find one you like, just stick with it.
Yeah, and I think that's really nice to touch on that, is that often you'll find one that you love and that's the one you stick with. For me, I was taught transcendental meditation. I don't know if are you familiar with that style of meditation?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yes. So essentially, in a nutshell, it took a lot of time and a lot of, and I was lucky because I was in person in my therapy sessions, getting taught by somebody who had spent many, many years not only teaching but practicing as well. And so essentially what I was taught was to settle myself in my chair, sitting upright, feeling just sort of like letting my shoulders relax, tuning into my senses and the connection of my body with the chair and the floor, and just kind of bringing that mindful attention to my experience, doing a body scan. And then I was given a word, which the word stays very private and personal to the person that's gifted to, or not gifted, but shared with. And so I have my word, and then my attention, it was about like focusing on my in-breath and my out-breath. And as I would breathe out, I would just silently say my word to myself. It wasn't a mantra. Some people like a mantra. You've got to find what works for you. But in doing that, and what you find is you sit there and then your attention goes, you realise you could be there for 20 minutes or even 5 minutes. You've fallen asleep. You've spent 5 minutes thinking about a problem, or coming up with an amazing idea is always a good part of it. But it's finding a style and, like you say, like a meditation that is a good fit for you. And then when it's no longer a good fit, you can find another one if you like. So it's great that people have lots of variety.
I personally don't actually do the one that I probably shouldn't even tell this to the group, but
It's okay.
I have like this amazing, there's this lady called Shiva Rasa that's so good. Anyone look her up. She's amazing, but she does like breath work and meditation. And for me, I try and make sure I do both each day. So if I can do like a combo one, like a 10-minute breath work that then rolls into a meditation. That's how I sort of start my morning. But I've promised a 1%, so I don't want to give people 20 minutes. So I'm like, here's your 10-minute. If you want to do more homework, go get more. So yeah.
Yes, yeah. And look, I think I think that's really, really nice to kind of like share these ideas with people, and people can look them up. And what was Shiva Rasa, was it? How do you spell that?
Shivarasa, I think. Shivarasa.
Oh,
You'll
that's
find
exactly
her,
how I spelled it.
yeah, there you go. You'll find her on YouTube and on Spotify. She has
Yeah.
some amazing, breath and meditation.
Yeah. And you know what? We both agree at the end of the day, it's taking that time for ourselves, isn't it? It's just that taking that practice, sitting down, lying down, however you are comfortable. You don't have to be in the lotus position, and giving your brain a break, a breather, a chance to just, and eventually, because of the way that it changes the neurobiology of the brain, our neurochemistry, it reduces our reactivity, that it's self-fulfilling, because it feels, eventually you realize it's, for most people, the experience feels good, and so therefore you want to get more. But sometimes you'll do a meditation and you won't feel great, and that's okay too. It is what it is. But no, thanks, Cooper. Thank you for talking with me a little bit more about that, because it's just something that those of us who are in the know, who've experienced the difference that it can make, kind of want to shout it from the rooftops. But for others, it can be like, I kind of know this is good, but if they want to dip their toe in the water, now they've got a really great way to connect with your community and to get themselves started.
Absolutely.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about was, you've got science meets simplicity is one of the things that I know that you talk about. And I know that you have a number of kind of pillars, if you like, to the ideas that you're sharing to really help people sort of strengthen their mental health. And one of them is values. And I just wonder if you could speak to the importance of this and why you kind of folded this in with kind of the key ideas that you talk about.
I think there's so many ways that we can view values, right? So if you've got an idea of what values are and they sound a little bit different to this, that's completely fine too. But the way that I view my values are basically a compass that I have that point me in the direction of sort of the person I want to go. And why I say that is, so often when I was growing up, I was directed by external validation, what I thought other people wanted me to do. And I just felt like my decisions weren't being guided by something that was true to me. And then I was exposed to this concept of, your values are who you are. If you just live to those values, it doesn't matter what other people think of you, you're heading in the direction that you want to go. And the values that I kind of landed on throughout, I guess, my career, throughout my 20s, are things that initially I called my sort of fundamental values for good mental health. But I think personally now that I teach them how I do, they're 5 fundamental values for everybody for their mental health. So the first one that I always talk about is taking responsibility. I think responsibility is a value that, you see some people who play the victim quite often and always have an excuse and always blame someone. We've all been there, some more than others. For me, responsibility is going, you know what? I play a role in pretty much everything that happens in my life. I'm going to start taking decisions and actions that are going to move me towards, a future I want, and not make excuses, look for solutions rather than excuses. And that's what I needed to do in my early 20s when I lost sponsorship, when I, felt like the world was against me. I was like, well, what can you do? And I, went and got a job. I worked as hard as I could so I could still fund my career, traveled, made it happen.
Yeah.
The second value that I think is so important is gratitude. You know, I was drilled into me since I was a kid. My dad was always like focused on appreciation, not expectation. You can always have bigger, better, more. Doesn't matter where you get to in life, or you can always, shine the light that is your awareness on the things you have, and your life's always going to be brighter. So gratitude and having that mindset of, looking for the positives rather than the negatives is a choice. And unfortunately, a lot of us, based because of, our biology and negativity bias, move towards negative, but you can train yourself to look towards the positive a lot more, and that's what I think living with the value of gratitude is. The next one's empathy. I think it's so important to put yourself in other people's shoes and actually try and feel what they're going through. And when you see someone that you want to get angry at because they've done something that's maybe wrong, you're trying to stop and get curious. Why have they done that? Like, what are they going through? What's led them to taking this decision that, I don't agree with, but I'm not going to judge them for it. I'm going to get curious about it. And then you kind of take back that control and see so many people get furious all the time and angry and frustrated. And it's like, just take a breath, like try and have empathy for the situation, for, the person, which can be hard at times, but it's once again a work in progress value. The fourth one's mindfulness. I think mindfulness is a skill and a value that we all need to have, our ability to be present. We all have a friend that we hang around that's on their phone all the time and distracted by everything. It's very hard to be around a person like that. And we feel ourselves when we're like that, when we can't be present with what's going on around us. So having a skill of mindfulness obviously comes a lot through meditation, but also just the practice of trying to be really present when people talk to you. Listen to them. Don't just wait for your chance to talk. And the fifth value, that's a very obvious one, is kindness. But when you look at the science and the studies behind kindness, it shows that, people who are kinder are generally happier people. And once again, it's a practice, being kind to yourself. How do you speak to yourself in your mind? You're breathing correctly through your nose down to your belly, which gives you the best chance of, a better nervous system. Or are you eating good food? Are you sleeping right? Like, how kind to yourself are you being? Are you exercising? Are you being kind to others? You're giving people the benefit of the doubt where you can. Are you, trying your best to help people where you can that are, a bit less fortunate than you? And then lastly, being kind to the environment should be very important to all of us. Obviously, I started this podcast saying I'm going to the United Nations Climate Change Conference.
Yeah.
You can feel good picking up a piece of rubbish, throwing in the bin. Doesn't matter if anyone sees you do it. You should feel good that you're, cleaning the environment. How good's that? So they're five values that I've learned are fundamental for me to have good mental health. Taking responsibility, not being in the victim mindset, having gratitude no matter what situation you're in. We're bloody lucky to be living in this time on this planet to have the opportunities and the access to healthcare, to knowledge like we do right now. Yeah, empathy for others and the planet, mindfulness and kindness. So there's obviously a million other values that I kind of try and help guide me as well, but they're my five sort of core ones that relate to, I believe, my mental health that,
Yeah.
allowed me to, I feel, thrive the last few years.
Cooper, I love that you're so young, and yet you've kind of got this wisdom that you've gained through experience, and we actually share very similar values. And one of the things that I just wanted to come back to is when you talked about empathy. And honestly, the other day I had an experience where I was at Woolies, and I'm in a moon boot at the moment up to my knee. I've got a stress fracture. And so getting around for me is not as easy at the moment. And if I'm on my feet for too long, and like going to Woolies is just like not my idea of a good time normally, let alone when I'm struggling. And I got to the counter, and normally I'll do my own scanning, but I thought I'm exhausted. I'll just get someone to do it. And the girl behind the register was chatting to someone who was on the other side of the counter, and I kind of had a look at the body language, and it looked to me like they were friends. The other girl wasn't in uniform, and I sort of stood there for a couple of minutes and kind of waited, and I was feeling a bit impatient, not feeling great. And as the impatience kind of like started to rise up, I stopped and thought, look, she knows I'm here. She hasn't sort of ended the conversation. It must be important. Like, there must be a good reason for this. I was just able to sort of have that moment of kind of empathy, I suppose. And she came back to scan my groceries, and I said, how's your day going? And she goes, oh, we had that had theft. And they'd had a quite serious incident of theft in that particular supermarket a little bit earlier that day, and her friend was there to comfort her. And I thought, wow, like, what an opportunity missed if I had have got grumpy and impatient, which is not normally it's not normally the way I roll, but just the way I was feeling.
Happens.
It happens. And we're all human, and we want to be good humans, but we can't always. And just in that moment, I just thought I took a different path. I took a path of patience and empathy, and when I sort of asked that question, and she opened up. And I was like, oh my gosh, like imagine if I had have done the opposite. It sort of added to this person's day that was terrible anyway. And she wasn't, she was probably very young, early 20s or something. And I just thought, you know what? That was just a little moment in a day in Woolworths, in a little suburb of Melbourne. It doesn't mean much. She'll probably never think about it again. But to me, it just showed me that just a couple of minutes of thinking about something in a different light and having a bit of empathy and showing some kindness I made her day better, not worse. And I could have very easily done the opposite. So, so I've loved talking with you.
Thank you so much for sharing that story, by the way. It's those moments that make other people stop and go, oh, that's why this stuff is so important. I just want to wrap it as your ability to do that comes so much from your ability to be regulated.
Yeah.
If you've been at work all day and you're stressed and you haven't taken a bit of time in the morning to settle your mind and something else has happened and then you get to the supermarket and then that happens, of course you're going to be like, oh, hurry up. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're at work. But having these practices and having, these values and these frameworks in our life allow us to show up in those heightened situations when sometimes we'd react. We go, wait, and you have a beautiful interaction like you. So thank you for being that sort of person.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd be that person in that situation. Like we all hope we are, but it's more stories like that remind someone next time someone else is in that situation. They'll go, oh, I remember that story that I heard Jodi and Cooper talking about on the podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, look, it's just having, that's why these conversations I think are so incredible because, you've got a podcast, which I'll get you to share with everyone about your book and your potty and everything in a sec. But, we can interview hundreds of people over years of podcasting and people will listen to hundreds and thousands of hours of podcasting. We can't remember everything we hear. We can't, but some things really stick. And something else that really stuck for me recently was, so many road rages, so many people get so impatient on the road. And somebody said they try to remember that if someone's driving a bit slow, that they've probably got a birthday cake on the back seat. And, I've been that mum. I've been that mum with that birthday cake that took way too many hours. And, the expectation reality is never quite the same, but you put a lot of time and effort or you pay a lot of good money for a cake. And I've been that person driving slowly for that reason. And, I think when we can just stop, like you say, we can just stop and just be a little bit mindful and respond and not react and just think there must be a good reason for this. It makes our day brighter. It makes us feel better, and the impact on others. And we do know that when you are kind to someone, they're more likely to show kindness to others. And when people witness a kind act, they actually are more likely to be kind to others as well. So, Cooper, honestly, we could talk all day, but
I know I want to keep telling stories. I've got another good story about something like that.
Go on.
I've got two really short ones.
Go for it.
On this idea of not letting other people's bad day ruin yours. My favourite thing to do on the weekends is go to the farmer's market. And I was driving into the car park a couple of weeks ago and the lady in front of me, a kid ran across the crossing and the lady in front of me put her brakes on pretty hard. So I had to, and the lady behind me brakes on really hard. And the lady behind me drove up beside me, was yelling out her window. It was like she was about to get out of the car and fight me. And I was like, do I wind my window down and try and not yell back, but try and explain myself? And I just literally stopped in that moment and thought to myself, she's having a terrible day. I'm not going to add to it. So I just waved to her and thought to myself, from the bottom of my heart, I hope your day gets better. For that to have caused that much to you, and then, it allows me to go like that. But one more on making people's day. I had a really nice one yesterday. I run obviously a lot of school workshops and I did one up at Stretton State College up near Brisbane yesterday, and 325 year 8 students at 2:30 till 3:30, the last period of the day, hard group. And the teacher came up to me after and she was like, oh, just thank you so much. That was such a great session. Obviously a couple rowdy kids like always, but she was like, there's this one kid and this made my day that's been struggling a lot with her mental health. And she was actually booked in to go and see the school psychologist halfway through your session. So I went over to get her in the middle of the session. She's like, oh, go away, miss. I'm really liking this. I'm learning a lot here. Can I stay here instead? And she just came up to me after and she's like, if not a single other kid got something from that, like for her to have reacted like that to what you're doing, like you got to keep doing what you're doing because that's I've never seen her be engaged like that and she really needs it. So you made my day, and I was like, oh, that made my day. So there's another little making
Yeah.
people's days simple to just
Yeah,
yeah,
it doesn't, and it doesn't have to be a big thing. It can sometimes be just taking the high road and just giving the wave on the road, letting the
yeah,
person in the traffic. Can be something really, really little, right through to like your life's work. Obviously, is about making the world a better place. And Cooper, tell our listeners, where can they learn more about you and follow you, and of course, congratulations. Where can they buy your book?
oh yeah, thank you. I'll try to keep this quick, but yeah, first of all, thank you so much for the chance to have this chat. It's been really nice getting to reflect and share a bit more about my journey. If you want to find out any more about my work, thegoodhumanfactory.com, you can find out about the workshops that I deliver for high schools, for corporate groups, for sporting clubs, for events. My book you can also find on my website, thegoodhumanfactory.com. There's a little shop page with some merch and other stuff. But you can also find the book on Booktopia, Amazon, in all the airports right now. It's the 1% Good Club with a big yellow writing. There's 100 dots on the cover. One of them's yellow to represent 1% of the cover and show you how small 1% is for your mental health. And yeah, social media at Cooper Chapman or at The Good Human Factor if you want to find anything there. But yeah, always keen for a chat. If anyone's found this chat interesting or wants to learn anything more, just send me a DM on Instagram or you can find my email on the website. Um, what else? Yeah, that's about it. Thank you
That's
so much. It's been a great chat.
Oh, thank you, Cooper, for your time, and we'll put all of those details in the show notes. So jump on into whichever app you're on for this potty, and you'll find all the details there. So, Cooper, thanks again for joining me, and safe travels, and have the most amazing experience in Brazil. And thank you for all you're doing for humans in this country, and obviously beyond, because you're doing great work, and it's been a real joy to chat to you. Thank you for sharing this time with me on Well, Hello Anxiety. Remember, understanding anxiety is the first step to managing it. Until next time, be gentle with yourself. Take things one moment at a time. Focus on what you can control and know that you are not alone on this journey. If you found value in today's episode, please share it with someone who might need to hear it too. I'm Dr. Jodi Richardson, and I'll meet you right back here next week.